This video will go through the Titanx whitepaper. As you can see on the left side, if you go to the whitepaper, which is docs.titanx.win, docs.titanx.win. If you go here, I would highly recommend reading this entire document from start to finish if you're planning to participate. Because if you don't, you have a major disadvantage going in. So I would highly recommend taking 5 minutes and reading this completely. But in this video, I'll try my best to run through it. So on the left side, you can see virtual mining ETH distribution. So where the ETH goes from people starting miners. The daily update, this is an absolute key section. Then you have staking, burning, proof of burn 2.0, buy and burn details, and details for builders. Because on Titanx, you can actually build things. There's a proof of burn function built in. It's proof of burn 2.0, which we'll run through once we're at that section. But for now, let's start with the virtual mining. So virtual mining, you don't need any hardware. You don't need any garbage or any complicated code stuff. It's very simple. You go to the website, you use your Ethereum, you decide how long your miner wants to go, and you decide what power your miner has. So there's two main variables when it comes to mining. One is the length of time you want to mine for, and the second is the amount of power you want your miner to have. So let's actually run through it. You create your own coins. Titan is built with self-custody, censorship resistance, and pure DeFi DNA at its code. We believe in humans' freedom to transact and do with their finance what they want. When you go to the mine page, you can specify the number of days you want to mine for and the number of power you want your miner to have. The number of days you pick and choose determine the amount of Titan you get at the end of your miner. This is kind of what the mining formula looks like. So the two main things are mining power and number of days. So I'll try to kind of explain this in my own words here. The power determines the cost. The length determines how many tokens you get. So for example, on day one, there's 8 million Titan per day of mining. So if you have a miner that goes for 1 day, you only get 8 million tokens at the end of it. If you go for 100 days, you get 800 tokens, right? If you go for 200 days, you get 1.6 billion tokens. So the longer you go, the more tokens you get. In general, longer always is better than shorter. Very big rule. So the longer out you go, the less you pay per token because the cost stays the same. So miner power determines the cost, and miner length determines how many tokens you get. So you pay the same price. If you do 100 power in your miner, and you only go 1 day, well, you pay 0.2 Ethereum at the start, but you only get 8 million tokens. But if you do 280 days, which is the max number of days for a miner, you now pay same 0.2 Ethereum, but you pay it for 280 times 8 million tokens, which I think is 2.46 billion. So you pay a lot less the longer out you go per token that you get. And this moves up over time, as you can see in the daily update. This is an extremely important section that I highly recommend everybody read. So miners can be created in 3 ways. Single miners. This will just create a normal single miner. This is what people will use if they just want to create one miner. Then you also have batch mining. This will essentially allow you to create up to 100 miners at a time, saving you the hassle of having to create miners individually. So if you want to create up to 100 miners at a time, there's a batch portion of the actual dApp that people can use, and it will create up to 100 single miners in one single transaction, saving you a little bit of money in gas. Because otherwise, like for example, the max miner at the start will be 0.2 Ethereum per miner. So you can have up to 1,000 miners per wallet, and you can have 10 wallets if you want to have 10,000 miners. So it's just because of data reading stuff on the blockchain, there's limits, rate limits on how much data you can read from the blockchain. So we had to put a 1,000 miner cap in there. But yeah, that's it. So if you want more miners, you can do more wallets. But basically, batch mining allows you to create up to 100 miners in a single transaction instead of having to do 100 times individually. But it still creates single miners. It just saves a lot of time. Mining ladder allows you to set up a mining ladder. So for example, you can do minimum days, 100 up to 280 days. I want this amount of miners at this day interval. You'll see all of it on the UI. And it will just create the mining ladder for you using code. And then it all goes through in one single transaction. Now you have mining bonuses, right? And this is very important. So there's an early adoption amplifier. This bonus starts at 10% and works its way down to 0% in 350 days. The rate reduces at 10% divided by 350 per day. So if you're in at day one, you get the full 10% early adoption amplifier on every Titan you get per day. So the base is 8 million per day at the start. But if you have the 10% early adoption amplifier, you now get 8.8 million a day at the start. So this moves up. This is kind of the launch phase. So for 350 days, it moves from 10% to 0%. And it does it every day, right? So it reduces by 10% divided by 350 every day. You also have the burn bonus multiplier. Now here's where we get into the very interesting game theory stuff. So you can get up to plus 8% extra on your new miner if you burned 80 billion Titan. This bonus starts at 0% for new wallets, and the more you burn, the more they get, up to 8%. This is to reward burners and acts like a loyalty program. So because of proof of burn, there's going to be a lot of things that launch on top of Titan that the community can participate in by burning their Titan X tokens, and then they get whatever token they burn it for, right? Now, the important thing here is we want to reward that behavior because it's obviously good for Titan X. It's obviously good for all the projects building on top of Titan X. Titan X is basically a base layer. People can build on top of it and instantly adopt a well-funded DeFi native community on their projects, which burns the Titan X supply. It gives the project a community. It's mutually beneficial. And we might use it for other stuff as well in the future. Maybe we already have some things planned, but this function is absolutely critical. So if you've burned up to 80 billion Titan, for example, in one project, 100 projects, whatever you want to do, you get more on your next mint. So this 8%, so for example, it's 8% extra at 80 billion Titan. But if you've only burned 10 billion Titan, you get 1%, right? So it moves linearly. Then you have T-rank bonuses. So when you create a miner, you get assigned a T-rank. We call that a Titan rank on that specific miner. This T-rank determines where you start earning rewards from. As people start miners after you, they give your miners extra bonuses. So basically, without going through all the text, what this does is, let's say you start a miner and your T-rank number 10,001. And then by the time your miner ends, now the T-rank, the global T-rank is 12,000, for example. You would get T-rank bonuses between 10,001, which is where you started, and 12,000. And adding that up would create your T-rank bonus based on how much mining power was there. And that gets added to your miner, and then you get to claim it at the end of your miner. So you could have 100 million extra Titan. It kind of acts like a global referral program. So usually the way referral programs work is one person brings one person in and they get a little bit of reward. This is kind of like a global referral program. So people are incentivized to create videos, create content, do spaces, do streams, educate people, bring their friends in, because there's a global referral program and everybody benefits. Because when new people come in, not only does the Ethereum that they use to start miners go to buy and burning and staking and fueling the ecosystem and, fostering its growth. The other thing is also everybody in the system gets more T-rank bonuses. So everybody's incentivized to constantly talk about it, constantly promote it. And there's a lot of social tooling built into the actual dApp that makes it very easy for people to share real-time statistics when it comes to Titan to onboard people in. Because I believe in sharing data and not opinions. So, because you can't argue with data, it's the best marketing ever. So then you have mining power. So mining power explained. Mining power determines how much Titan X you get per day in your miner. And it also determines how much Ethereum your miner costs. So you get one miner, it's 0.1 max miner. So when we say max miner, essentially all we mean is it's a miner with 100 power. That's a max miner. So a max miner starts at 0.2 Ethereum. Now, if you do a miner with 1 power, well, then it would only cost 0.002 Ethereum. But you also get 100 times less Titan. So it all moves linear, right? So you can have a 10 power miner go for 280 days. And the cost per Titan X at the end of your miner is still the same. You just, for example, the reason we did this is so smaller people can get in. Another reason is all of us probably have some wallets that have like 0.4 Ethereum in there that we're just using for gas fees. I wanted to make it so that, well, let's actually use a better example, 0.08 Ethereum, just sitting there for gas fees or whatever. And we want to put that to work because, it's money just kind of sitting there. So what we can do is we can actually go ahead and create a 20 power miner on Titan X, put that leverage, put that Ethereum to work by starting a miner. And that way you don't have 0.08 Ethereum sitting in a wallet somewhere. Now you have 0.04 and some of it has been put to work. So that's kind of why we did the miner power, because we want to make sure that even if you have like 0.19 Ethereum, you can still create a miner. You don't have to have 0.2. So you can kind of move the price around with the mining power. Now there's also penalties. So if you fail to claim your miner on time, so for example, you start a miner and you put in the term for 280 days. Now, if you end your miner on day 300, you're obviously late and you didn't keep your word. So because the blockchain cannot do anything automatically, everything has to happen through transactions. All the blockchain basically is a very expensive database that people have to pay to change. There's no automation whatsoever in blockchain. So the way the penalties work, if you're 1 day late, you lose 1% of your claimable Titan X. But here's the important thing. This 1 day late only starts after a 7-day grace period. So let's say you put your miner to end after 280 days from starting it. You get 7 days to end it without any penalties whatsoever. We call this the grace period. But after those 7 days, it starts ticking down heavily. This is to promote people staying engaged with the protocol and watching their stats. Because the more engaging it is, the better it grows, because people care and it gets headspace in their mind. So you want to add these things in because it keeps it sticky. Because if you just start a miner and then you forget about it, you're going to have penalties. So you might as well stay engaged, stay in the community, maybe do some content, do some promotion, talk about it, support the thing, because it keeps you engaged. You have a reason to come back. This is very, very important. So after the grace period of 7 days, if you're 1 day late, you lose 1% of your claimable Titan X in your miner. 2 days late, 3%, 3 days late, 8%, 6 days late, 72%. And after 7 days, you pretty much lose all of it. So make sure to, when you say, hey, I'm coming back to claim this in 280 days, you better come back to claim it in 280 days. It's very important. So limits. Due to blockchain data reading limits, each wallet can have at maximum 1,000 miners and 1,000 stakes. If you want to create more miners, you can do so on a second or third wallet. And this is also a good reason to do max miners if possible. It's easier to manage and keep track of, and no extra benefit in doing small ones unless needed, or if you want to put some change to work. Now here's the absolute secret sauce key part of Titan X. This page only talks about the ease that people use to create Titan X miners. So you remember in the beginning, I mentioned that people have to use Ethereum to create miners, and then they specify their mining time. So they kind of use Ethereum and time to bring Titan X into existence instead of hardware and Chinese manufacturers and graphic cards, all of that stuff. All you need is Ethereum and time and your self-custody wallet, because you create your codes. This is something we'll go over in a bit. But basically, to mine Titan X, people use Ethereum plus time. The Ethereum gets given back to users in a variety of ways to support the ecosystem growth as the network grows, right? So the Ethereum distribution. 62% of the Ethereum gets sent to the decentralized buy and burn smart contract to buy and burn Titan X off the market via the wrapped Ethereum Titan X pair on Uniswap v3. And every single Titan that it buys, it also burns. So burning in and of itself doesn't do anything at all for the ecosystem. It just removes supply. But if nobody had that supply, the burning doesn't matter at all. So burning is useless. Buy and burning is the absolute key, because then you provide liquidity, because when it buys, it puts Ethereum into the pool and it removes Titan X, right? Because when you buy 100 Ethereum of a coin, well, guess what? Your 100 Ethereum doesn't disappear. Your 100 Ethereum goes into the pool and you take whatever coins you just bought out of the pool. That's how Uniswap works. So the buy and burn actually gives the ecosystem, the liquidity pool grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time, because the buy and burn just keeps buying. The reason the liquidity pool grows is because people are buying and their Ethereum goes in. So 62%. So if there's $100 million that participates in Titan X on the blockchain and just interacts with the code, well, guess what? 62% of that, so $62 million, goes towards buy and burning and building the liquidity and growing the network and supporting it as it scales, right? This is the beauty. I love this. Now, then you have 28% of Ethereum goes to the payout cycles to pay out Titan X takers based on their percentage of shares. We'll go over that in a bit. 7% of the Ethereum goes to something called the burn pool, used to pay out Titan X burners based on how much they've burned in the last 28-day period. So this is a rolling 28-day period, so it happens every 28 days. So 7% of the Ethereum. So let's say $100 million comes in. Let's do a smaller amount because it's 28 days. Let's say $1 million comes in the 28-day period to start miners. Well, guess what? Now that $1 million gets split up, right? 62% goes towards buy and burning. 28% goes towards paying out Titan X takers based on the payout cycles. And 7%, so $70,000 of that, gets used to reward people burning Titan X to participate in ecosystem projects. So when you burn for something, not only do you get the burn bonus amplifier on your next miner, you also get a little bit of, you can call it cashback, on the amount that you just burned, paid back straight in Ethereum, and you also have the coin of the thing you just burned for, right? So there's a lot of benefits to burning, which is better for everybody involved. Then you have 3% of Ethereum that goes to Genesis, of which you should have no expectations whatsoever. This may or may not be used to create deep liquidity between crucial pairs within the Titan X ecosystem. Everything's transparent, everything's on the blockchain. People are just going to have to put 2 and 2 together for legal reasons. And let me go a little bit more in depth on that. So when I say legal reasons, there's this thing called the Howey test, which is why this text is extremely important, and it's very crucial to the design of Titanx. How we test basically states that, and I would love, here's a little bit of context. I would love as a founder to talk about price and to make promises and have a roadmap and all of that stuff. But if you truly want something to be around for the long term, you cannot do that stuff as a founder or the creator of the thing, right? Because then you have a common enterprise where people have expectations of profit solely from the work of others. So here's a very important statement that everybody needs to understand. All of this is done through smart contracts as users call and interact with their own private keys. There is no central actor, authority, or individual, group, or company doing any critical work whatsoever. It's completely decentralized, owned, and ran by the users interacting with the smart contracts deployed on the globally decentralized network called Ethereum. So people are just going to have to see what Genesis does. Now, the next thing is the daily update. For every new day that ticks over in the contract, this is the absolute golden key, the secret sauce of how this thing will actually scale and potentially become valuable, right? So for every new day that ticks over in the contract, these variables get updated. You have the Ethereum cost for miners goes up plus 0.08% every day based on the day before. So every day, it becomes a little bit more expensive, just a little bit more expensive to create a miner. But it adds up very, very quickly. And you can see that here. This is what the charts look like. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see on all these charts, I would highly recommend reading the white paper yourself instead of just watching this video. But basically also, the Titanx mineable per day goes down minus 0.35% every day based on the day before. This kind of mimics the Bitcoin 4-year halving, but does it every year instead of every 4 years. And it's not a halving every day, right? But it reduces a little bit every day. It becomes a little bit more expensive to create a miner, so to create Titanx. So it becomes a little bit more expensive to create Titanx, and you get a little bit less. That's an exponential effect on the price floor of the thing going up. Then you have T-rank bonuses. Your T-rank bonuses go down together with the supply, which kind of makes sense because it's creating Titanx. And then you have the share rates. So whenever you stake, you lock up your Titanx tokens. Well, technically, the way it works is you essentially burn your Titanx tokens and you remint them at the end of your stake. So it's you interacting with your own private keys with a smart contract, and the smart contract does not have custody of your coins whatsoever. This is very, very important for the Howey test and stuff, because this is a completely decentralized crypto. There's no ICO, there's no sacrifice, there's no pre-sale, there's no nothing. This is code launched on the blockchain completely fairly, openly, and decentralized, and there's no central company, there's no central authority, there's no central individual controlling anything. So this is completely decentralized, ran by the users, owned by the community, immutable code on the blockchain, secured by consensus. Then you have, so this means that it will always become harder and more expensive to get Titan for every day that passes. The general rule for staking and mining is today is always better than tomorrow. So I would highly recommend watching these charts and especially reading this part. So I won't go over it in the video, but you want to read it. And obviously the above is not a price prediction of any kind. It's just a description of the math inside of the protocol describing the cost of production over time until the protocol hits its caps, and should not be used and or looked at as financial advice in any way, shape, or form. Now let's get into staking. So when you stake Titanx, you can actually earn Ethereum. And this is very, very important because I see a lot of coins out there that do staking, which is totally fine. But the way staking works is they reward their stakers with more of their own coin. So what happens is if stakers want to realize some of their, yield or whatever, they have to sell down the coin, which obviously sucks for the entire community, right? So with Titanx, we're doing it differently. You can stake your Titanx, but you don't get more Titanx. You get a portion of Ethereum that people use to start miners. And that's because you are protecting the price by locking up your tokens, so you should be rewarded for doing so. But instead of giving you more Titanx, the contracts give you more Ethereum. And then you can do with your Ethereum whatever you want, because when you dump your Ethereum to go and pay for life stuff, you're dumping Ethereum. You're not dumping Titanx. This is very, very, very important game theory element. So you get rewarded Ethereum whenever a payout cycle triggers. When you stake your Titanx, you get shares based on the current share rate, and the share rate goes up every day, as seen in the daily update that we just went over. The max stake length is 3,500 days, and all share bonuses cap at day 2,888. See shares section below. The rolling payout cycles run every 8 days, so day 8, 16, 24, etc. forever, every 28 days, every 90 days, every 369 days, and every 888 day. Every 888 days. And the Ethereum gets distributed like this. So the 28% that goes towards stakers, it gets distributed like this. 28% goes to the 8-day rolling payout. 28% goes to the 28-day rolling payout. So this is based on the 28%, right? So if there's $1 million that comes in, 280,000 of that gets split like this. So 28% 8-day, 28% 28-day, 18% 19-day, 90-day, 18% 369-day, and 8% triple 8-day. This is very important because it keeps people engaged in the protocol for a longer period of time, because the payout cycles do not happen every day. They happen in the future. So all of this gets locked up in the future. And what might happen is Ethereum becomes more valuable. So let's say, for example, the triple 8 payout pool. If Ethereum becomes more valuable and goes from whatever price is at now to like 10,000 or whatever, this payout pool becomes more valuable and people have a reason to stick around. And it never stops. These cycles will pay out forever as long as people participate in the protocol, and 28% of the Ethereum flows into the payout cycle for Titan stakers. And yes, this also means that sometimes 2 payout cycles can trigger on the same day. For example, day 56 is when an 8-day rolling payout cycle triggers and a 28-day rolling cycle payout triggers, right? Because 56 divided by 28 is 2. So that's the second 28 cycle, right? Now shares, this is very important to understand. When you stake your Titan X, you get shares in return. The number of shares you get depends on the current share rate at the time of your stakes, plus the bonuses below. So you have a longer pays more and a bigger pay more. People can actually read into this for more details, but basically, the longer you go, the more shares you get. So if you stake for 28 days, which is the minimum, if you stake for 28 days, you get a very small longer pays more bonus, but it's not insignificant. If you go out to 2,888 days, now you get 350% more shares with the exact same Titan X. So for example, on day 1, it's 800 Titan X per 1 share that you create, and you get paid out based on your percentage of shares versus everybody's shares in the system, right? So if it's 800 on day 1, if you just do the minimum stake, which is 28 days, if you go out all to the max, which is 3,500 days, and all the bonuses cap out at day 2,888. There's a lot of numerology in this, especially in the code, and also gematria. Basically, you get 350% more shares. So instead of paying 800 Titan X per 1 share that you pay roughly, you don't pay anything, but you get 1 share, for example, 177. 177 Titan X will create 1 share instead of 800 per share because you go longer out, right? And you get the bonuses. Then there's obviously also penalties. So the way staking works is, let's say you create a stake for 100 days. You pick a date for your stake to end when you start your stake. Try to end your stake on that day. If you're unable to, on that specific day, you have a 7-day grace period, similar to the miners, to end your stake, in which no penalty will get applied. Stakes are not allowed to be ended before 50% maturity. So if you do a 100-day stake, you cannot end it in any way, shape, or form before 50 days. And this is kind of like the Truth engine, right? Which a lot of you guys have probably heard about. But if you commit to a day, you should commit to that day. And the code should enforce you to commit to that day. So if your stake ends after 50% maturity, so before 50% you can end. If you want to end your stake, let's say you have a 100-day stake. If you want to end your stake on day 51, you lose 50% of the Titan in the stake and it gets sent to the dead address, so it gets burned. And you get 50% back. And if your stake is not ended for 1 week after end date, you lose 1% of your Titan per day until 99% is lost after 100 days. So you want to end your stake, your stake on time. And you have a 7-day grace period. So after your stake ends, you get 7 days to just end it without any penalties whatsoever. This is also to keep people engaged and coming back, so they actually care. And then if you don't, you lose 1% of your Titan every day until day 100, at which everything is lost. Now, the next thing is burning. So with proof of burn, you can actually burn your Titan to participate in other ecosystem projects built on top of Titan X, because it's a base layer, right? It's not a layer 1 like Ethereum, but it's a coin that can be used to create other things, and people can use it and give utility to it. So when you burn, you get burn pool Ethereum payouts, like we went over here in the mining Ethereum distribution. 8% of all the Ethereum that participates in mining Titan X goes towards something called the burn pool. This exists to handsomely reward users for staying active in the ecosystem and participating in other projects built on top of Titan X, like Hyper, which I won't mention anything about now, not for a long time. Users that burn Titan get a percentage of this burn pool. For example, if the burn pool is $1 million worth of Ethereum, and the total Titan burned in the rolling 28-day period is 200 billion. So in this rolling 28-day period, if the total global Titan burn amongst users is 200 billion, and you burn 1 billion, well, then you have 0.5% of the total burned in that 28-day period, right? So $5,000 of that 1 million would get paid out to you based on how much you've burned versus everybody else in this 28-day period. And this resets every 28 days. So it's like a burning leaderboard of sorts. Then you have the burn bonus amplifier, which we also talked about with the mining. When a user burns Titan this gets saved in the smart contract under their wallet address. Based on how much they've burned in total, so the smart contract keeps track of it, based on how much they burn in total on one specific wallet. So you cannot burn on 100 wallets and expect it all. Like, that's not how smart contracts work. So it's all tracked on a per wallet basis. They get a burn bonus amplifier that goes up to 8%. Miners can be burned, so you can actually burn your miners, you can burn your stakes, and you can burn your liquid Titan X. Now, the proof of burn is also very interesting, because what you could do, and this is advanced game theory stuff, you could start a stake for the max, 3,500 days, and then 200 days in, you can be like, hey, I kind of want to get out of this stake. And what you could do is you could burn your stake for one of the projects, like Hyper, for example. We'll talk about all that stuff later on. Then we have Proof of Burn 2.0. So users can burn their Titan X to transform it into other projects. Hyper will be one of the first projects built on top of Titan X, as an example. When users burn, they get handsomely rewarded for doing so. Here's a couple. They get a percentage of all their Titan X burned back, sort of like cashback, up to 8%. And whichever protocol creates the burning can decide whatever this percentage is. So it depends on the developers. Developers set these percentages, and it all goes up to 8% combined. They increase that burn bonus amplifier. They earn a percentage of the burn pool 28-day rolling Ethereum payout. And they get a proof of burn record attached to the wallet for future potential airdrops. No promises whatsoever, no expectations, but could be a cool set to airdrop to, right? And they get the token that they just transformed / burned their Titan X for. This is massive and never-ending rewards for users to be actively participating in protocols built on top of Titan, like Hyper. Now, project burning. Projects built on top of Titan X can earn a percentage of all the Titan X their protocols burn. This incentivizes builders to build and improve the ecosystem. So if a builder comes in and he's like, okay, I want to build an awesome protocol on top of Titan X, but I'm a builder. I should be rewarded for my time. And that's why we built this into the code. Because people don't do stuff for free. If somebody comes up to you and be like, hey, give me half a year of your life. You're going to work 12 hours a day. You're going to push yourself. You're going to put yourself under stress. And guess what? You don't get anything. I'm not going to pay you anything. You'd be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. That's a bad deal, right? And I agree. So in Titan X, we believe in capitalism and meritocracy, where if people provide value to the ecosystem, they should be rewarded with value. So they can decide a percentage of all the Titan X burdens to go to a deployer wallet, and they can set the wallet themselves. But basically, let's say they build a protocol and that protocol burns 1 trillion Titan, right? Well, they can get up to 8% of that, and they decide that percentage themselves. So they could get up to 80 billion Titan if their protocol burns that much, right? So it rewards the builders to come in. So there's also a cashback percentage that they can send. Okay, so read this. Then you also have a cashback percentage. So protocol developers or project developers can set a rebate or cashback percentage, which is the same thing, where they give a percentage of the Titan X burned back to the users, up to 8%. So for example, if you have 100 billion Titan and you burn it for a project, the project could set, for example, a 4% rebate and a 4% developer reward, right? So out of that 100 billion burned, 4% will be given back to you, 4 billion Titan X in this example, and 4% will go to the developer for thanking them for developing an amazing project on top of Titan X, right? They should get rewarded. But this kind of gives a mutual handshake agreement where the user gets a little bit back for burning and the developer gets a little bit. It's just nice. I like it. So the builder reward percentage. Project developers need to get rewarded for the time and efforts invested in their community. Therefore, they can set a builder reward percentage up to 8% of all Titan X burned for their protocols. Builders should be and will be rewarded for their work. This is part of the core values of Titan. This applies to burning liquid Titan X and stake Titan X, not miners. So you don't get burn rewards on burning future supply, which is miners. You only get rewards if you're burning liquids and stake Titan X. Then we have the buy and burn details. The Ethereum that gets used to create virtual miners for Titan X gets sent to a Titan X buy and burn smart contract. This contract can be used by any builder on top of Titan X. This is very crucial. The Titanx buy and burn contract can receive Ethereum or wrapped Ethereum. If it receives Ethereum, it will automatically wrap it through wrapped Ethereum for you, and it becomes available for users to call the buy and burn function on. Everything's decentralized, called by users. There's no central actor authority or critical managerial effort of any kind here. It's all smart contracts on the blockchain. That's it. And no pre-sale, no ICO, no sacrifice, no money raised, no nothing. Just fair launch, launched on the blockchain. It's code, immutable, community interacts with it with their own private keys, and there's no custody of any kind. Very, very important protocol design. But basically, if your project building on top of Titanx and want to implement a buy and burn that buys Titanx off the market and burns it, you can send a portion of whatever Ethereum protocol fee you do, if you do, on your protocol, to our buy and burn, and it will take care of everything else. So if you're a protocol developer and you want to launch something, you don't actually have to go ahead and build your own buy and burn contracts if you want to buy and burn Titan. You can just, do a protocol fee in your protocol for people to transform their Titanx into your project. And then what you could do is you could send 50% of all the Ethereum that your protocol generates to the buy and burn contract that is already deployed on the blockchain. Just the Titanx buy and burn contract, and it will automatically take care of everything for you. So you don't need to build your own buy and burn contract. And notes on user incentives. Users get 0.33% of the Ethereum and distribute ETH as an incentive for calling the smart contract function. So this is very important design because the Ethereum that comes in from virtual miners needs to get distributed, right? It needs to go 62% buy and burn, 28% stakers, 7% burn pool, 3% genesis. This needs to get distributed. And I repeat, smart contracts are not automated in any way whatsoever. It's impossible to automate a smart contract. So users need to call these functions and they need to be incentivized to do so. So with that, users get 0.33% of the Ethereum to call the distribute Ethereum function as often as possible whenever it's profitable, right? As long as you get more Ethereum back from the incentive fee than you were paying in gas, it's kind of like quick profit, right? And the same 0.33% incentive rewards applies to calling the buy and burn function. So users call the buy and burn function. It's a smart contract. It's not a person doing it. It's not a dude in his mom's basement. You don't have to trust anybody. This is trustless, permissionless crypto at its finest. So users are incentivized to call the functions to keep the ecosystem running. And there'll be a page on the actual dApp. And both can be done inside of the Titanx dApp. Now, here you have, this is the core information. I would highly, highly recommend everybody to still read the white paper, but this is core information. And here's the official links, right? So you have the dApp, the Titanx Telegram news. I highly, 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 highly recommend joining that one. It's a high signal to noise because there's nobody chatting. It's just an announcement. And then you have the Titanx Telegram, and this is the actual chat. So you can click on these links, go everywhere, join the Telegrams. And that's it. This is Titanx. And then Titanx Win fundamentals. Just kind of read through this. This is just a high-level overview of how it's kind of designed. And then Hyper, that will be released later on. Now we also have a buy and burn. Are you a builder kind of page for... So if you're a builder, Titanx is very unique. You can build on it and instantly adopt a sophisticated, well-funded, and DeFi native community to your project-size protocol by integrating the burning of Titanx into your protocol using the Proof of Burn 2.0 functions. We believe in capitalism and meritocracy. We don't believe in people adding value to the ecosystem and not getting handsomely rewarded for doing so. So if you're a builder, you can make money and instantly attract a community by building on top of Titanx. Hyper is going to be an example of an upper echelon project, building on top of Titan. The biggest issue other ecosystems have is the fact that they have not cracked what caught these tokenomics look like. So we gave you some examples of tokenomics, but this is for builders. So this is the overview of the Titanx white paper.